And to my daughter Julia, I leave nothing. The words hung in the air of the lawyer's office like smoke after a gunshot. I sat frozen between my father Martin and my brother Caleb, my hands gripping the leather armrest so hard my knuckles turned white. Ellen, the family lawyer, shifted uncomfortably in her chair, her eyes darting between the will and my face. Martin cleared his throat, his voice steady and cold. Julia needs to learn responsibility. She's been coddled enough. Caleb smirked beside me, crossing his arms. The golden child. The one who crashed 3 cars and still got a new one each time. The one whose DUI legal fees I'd helped pay 2 years ago. Everything goes to Caleb, Ellen continued quietly, reading from the document. The savings, the investments, and the house. The house. The beautiful 3-bedroom colonial on Maple Street where Mom planted roses every spring before she died. The house that held every childhood memory I had. I felt 50 pairs of invisible eyes on me, waiting for tears. Instead, I leaned forward and whispered, "You forgot who owns your house, Dad." The room went completely silent. Martin's face turned red. "What are you talking about? I paid for everything in this family." "Of course you did, Dad," Caleb added quickly, that smug grin still plastered on his face. I bit my tongue hard enough to taste copper. The lies were so casual, so automatic. They'd rewritten history so many times they believed their own stories. Ellen looked at me with concern. "Julia, perhaps we should discuss this privately." "There's nothing to discuss," Martin interrupted. "Julie is being dramatic, as usual. She thinks because she has a steady job, she's better than everyone." I stood up, smoothing my skirt with trembling hands. My mind flashed back 6 years to the manila folder hidden in my apartment. The folder with copies of every check I'd written. Every bank transfer. Every payment I'd made when Martin's construction business nearly went under. The folder that proved I'd saved his house from foreclosure. "I need to go," I said quietly. As I walked toward the door, Caleb called after me, "Don't be a sore loser, Jules." I didn't look back. The next morning, I walked into First Community Bank at exactly 9 o'clock. The building smelled like coffee and old paper. My hands were steady now, my mind clear. I barely slept, but I knew exactly what I needed to do. "Julia Emerson," I said to the receptionist. "I need to speak with Mr. Keaton about a property matter." 5 minutes later, I sat across from the bank manager who'd helped my family for 20 years. Mr. Keaton was in his 60s, with kind eyes and gray hair that reminded me of my grandfather. "Julia, it's good to see you," he said warmly. "Though I heard about your father's will." "I'm very sorry." "Thank you, Mr. Keaton. That's actually why I'm here." I pulled out my folder. 6 years ago, Dad nearly lost the house. I helped with the payments. His expression shifted to interest. "I remember. You were fresh out of college. I need to see the deed. And the payment history." He nodded slowly and turned to his computer. Mr. Keaton printed out page after page. Bank statements. Transfer records. Payment receipts. Each one showed my name clearly alongside my father's. "Your name is still on the title," he said finally, his finger tracing a line on the property deed. "Technically, Julia, you co-own that house." The words washed over me like cold water. Co-own. After everything Martin had said in that office, after being erased from the will, I still legally owned half his house. I drove home in a daze, the documents tucked carefully in my bag. My phone buzzed constantly. Text messages from Caleb's friends congratulating him. A Facebook post from my brother about Dad finally realizing who the real heir is. That night, I sat on my apartment floor and cried. Not because I wanted money or property, but because my own father thought so little of me. After Mom died, I'd been the one holding everyone together. I'd been the responsible one. And this was my reward. But by morning, my tears were dry. I picked up my phone and called Ellen. Ellen's office was quieter this time. "No, Caleb." No Martin. Just me and the lawyer who'd watched me grow up. I need your honest legal opinion, I said, sliding the deed across her desk. She put on her reading glasses and studied the document for a long moment. Then she looked up at me, eyebrows raised. Julia, this deed gives you significant legal standing. You're listed as joint owner. What does that mean, exactly? It means your father cannot make major decisions about this property without your consent. He can't sell it, refinance it, or renovate it without your signature. My heart pounded. So when he left everything to Caleb, he left something that isn't entirely his to give, Ellen finished. She leaned back in her chair. Here's my advice. Play your cards slowly. Let them think they've won. Then, when you're ready, you'll have all the leverage. I signed papers to update the property records, making my joint ownership officially documented and current. Ellen promised to file everything discreetly. Walking out, I felt something I hadn't felt in years. Power. 2 weeks later, Martin threw a celebration party at the house. Family celebration, the text message said. It wasn't a request, it was an announcement. I almost didn't go, but Ellen had told me to stay visible, stay calm, and stay polite. The house looked the same as always. Mom's rose garden was overgrown now, weeds choking the flowers she'd loved. Inside, Caleb had already started treating the place like his own, feet propped up on the coffee table that used to be off limits. Diane, my father's new girlfriend, fluttered around the kitchen like she owned it. She'd moved in 3 months after Mom died, which told me everything I needed to know about that relationship. Julia. Martin called out, his voice too loud, too jovial. Come have a drink. I accepted a glass of wine and sat quietly in the corner while Caleb gave a toast. To the next generation taking care of what the last generation built. Everyone clapped. Martin beamed with pride. Then he made the announcement. Caleb's moving in next month. He'll be fixing this place up, making it modern. My grip tightened on my wine glass, but I smiled and nodded. Let them think they'd won. Just like Ellen said. 3 weeks passed. Caleb moved in with boxes and big plans. He hired contractors without telling anyone. The house filled with the sounds of hammering and drilling. Then he made his big move. He decided to tear out the kitchen wall to create an open-concept living space. I saw the photos on his social media before I got the official notice. The notice came from the city permits office. A request for renovation approval on 447 Maple Street. The property owner's signature required for approval. Both property owners. I sat at my kitchen table, reading the form. There were 2 signature lines. One for Martin Emerson. One for Julia Emerson. I thought about Mom's kitchen. Her yellow curtains. The small table where we'd done homework while she cooked dinner. The wall Caleb wanted to tear down had dozens of small pencil marks showing my height as I grew up. I picked up a pen and wrote in large letters across the form, denied. Then I mailed it back. The phone call started at 7 in the morning. Martin's name flashed across my screen 12 times before I finally answered. What the hell do you think you're doing? He shouted. Good morning, Dad. You blocked the permit. You're sabotaging your own brother. I took a slow breath. I'm exercising my legal rights as property co-owner. Silence. Then, what are you talking about? You don't own anything. Actually, I do. Check the deed. The line went dead. An hour later, my phone buzzed with a text from Caleb, this is low, even for you. By noon, Martin had stormed into First Community Bank demanding answers. Mr. Keaton called me afterward, his voice amused. Your father just learned about property law. He wasn't happy. Did he make a scene? Let's just say half the bank now knows you co-own his house. That evening, I received a voicemail from Martin. His voice was cold and controlled, which was somehow worse than his shouting. You're embarrassing this family, Julia. This behavior is unacceptable. We'll discuss this when you're ready to be reasonable. I saved the voicemail. Then I poured myself a glass of wine and sat on my balcony, watching the sunset. For the first time in weeks, I felt calm. That night, I couldn't sleep. Memories kept flooding back, sharp and painful. The time Caleb got his second DUI and called me at 2 in the morning from jail. I'd used my emergency savings to post bail because Dad was too disappointed to deal with it. The time Martin's business partner embezzled money and the company nearly collapsed. I'd worked double shifts at my accounting job and sent home money every month for a year, telling Dad it was just to help out. The time I paid Mom's hospital bills in her final weeks because Martin was too stressed to handle the finances. I'd been the responsible one my entire life. The careful one. The one who planned and saved and sacrificed. And what had it gotten me? Cut out of a will to teach me responsibility. The irony was suffocating. I pulled out my laptop and opened my financial records. Everything was documented. Every payment, every transfer, every sacrifice. I'd kept records because that's what responsible people do. By dawn, I'd made my decision. I wasn't going to fight for the house out of spite. I was going to sell my half. On my terms. For fair market value. Ellen was going to love this. Ellen did love it. It's perfectly legal, she said, spreading the papers across her desk. You have every right to sell your share of the property. We structured everything carefully. A formal legal notice. An appraisal showing the house was worth $400,000. My half was worth $200,000. I'd accept payment within 90 days, or I'd force a partition sale, meaning the court would order the entire house sold and split the proceeds. This is going to cause a storm, Ellen warned. Good, I said. Martin received the notice 3 days later. He called within an hour, his laugh sharp and cruel. You can't sell what's mine, Julia. Nice try. Read the attached documents, Dad. This is harassment. You're trying to extort money from your own family. Ellen sent a second package the next day. This one included the original deed with my name on it, copies of every payment I'd made during the foreclosure crisis, and a letter from Mr. Keaton confirming the ownership history. My phone stayed silent for 2 days. When Martin finally called back, his voice was different. Smaller. We need to talk. Talk to my lawyer, I said, and hung up. I was buying milk at the grocery store when Diane cornered me by the dairy section. She wore too much perfume and a fake smile. Julia, sweetie, we need to talk about this misunderstanding. There's no misunderstanding, Diane. Her smile vanished. You're being cruel. Your father worked his whole life for that house. You're trying to steal it. Something inside me snapped. Years of biting my tongue, of staying quiet, of being the good daughter. It all exploded. Cruel? Cruel is watching your father reward a son who's never been responsible for anything. Cruel is being erased from a will after saving that house from foreclosure. Don't talk to me about cruel, Diane. Her face flushed red. You're making enemies you can't afford, little girl. I'm not a little girl. And I'm done being afraid of this family. She walked away quickly, heels clicking on the linoleum. I stood there shaking, my heart pounding. But I didn't regret a single word. Caleb appeared at my office the next Tuesday without warning. My assistant tried to stop him, but he pushed past her and slammed papers down on my desk. Withdraw the sale, he demanded. Right now. I looked at him calmly. No. You don't understand. I used the house as collateral for a business loan. If you force a sale, the bank will call the loan. I'll lose everything. My stomach dropped. You did what? I needed capital for my new restaurant. The bank required collateral, so I used the house. It's mine, anyway. It's not yours, Caleb. That's the whole point. His face went pale. Dad signed the papers. It's fine. Dad can't sign papers for property he doesn't fully own. I called Ellen immediately after Caleb left. She pulled up records and swore softly. Your brother secured a $200,000 loan using property he doesn't have sole ownership of. That's illegal. When the bank realizes, they'll call the loan immediately. What happens then? Forced sale. The house goes to auction to cover the debt. I sat in my office as the sun set, staring at my computer screen. This was bigger than I'd planned. The house Mom loved was about to be destroyed, not by me, but by Caleb's recklessness. I could stop it. I could withdraw my claim and let them keep everything. Or I could let the consequences play out. I called Mr. Keaton. Let the process play out, I said quietly. The auction notice went public 2 weeks later. A small announcement in the local paper and a sign posted on the property, foreclosure sale due to improper collateral filing. Within hours, the whole town knew. My phone exploded with messages. Old friends. Former neighbors. Even people I hadn't spoken to since high school. Everyone had an opinion. Some supported me. Your father had no right to cut you out. Others called me vindictive. Family should forgive. But the loudest voices were the whispers. Diane's charity friends stopped inviting her to events. Martin's construction buddies started asking questions about his business practices. Caleb disappeared for 3 days, not answering anyone's calls. The Golden family image was crumbling in real time. I felt guilty. I felt powerful. I felt terrified. I felt free. Every emotion crashed over me in waves, and I couldn't tell which one was right. Ellen called me every day to check in. You okay? I don't know, I admitted. Is this worth it? Only you can answer that. The town's reaction got worse. Diane's friends, the women she'd spent 2 years impressing, started pulling away. Her charity gala lost half its sponsors. Martin's business partners began quietly distancing themselves, worried about his financial stability. I saw it all on social media. Screenshots forwarded by friends. Whispered conversations in coffee shops. The Emerson family, once respected and envied, was now the subject of gossip. Part of me felt vindicated. They'd built their reputation on lies and manipulation. Now everyone could see the truth. But another part of me felt sick. This was still my family. These were still people I'd loved, even if that love was complicated and painful. Caleb finally resurfaced, showing up at my apartment building at midnight. The doorman called up, asking if he should let him in. I almost said no. But something in the doorman's voice told me my brother was in bad shape. When Caleb stumbled into my apartment, he looked terrible. Unshaven, unwashed, his eyes red and hollow. I lost everything, he whispered. The restaurant. The loan. My car. Everything. I wanted to feel satisfaction. Instead, I just felt tired. I'm sorry, I said, and I meant it. He looked at me with something like hatred. No, you're not. This is what you wanted. Maybe he was right. I didn't know anymore. Martin showed up at my door the next morning. He'd aged years and weeks. Gray stubble covered his jaw, his clothes were wrinkled, and the confidence that usually radiated from him was completely gone. Please, he said simply. Stop this. I let him in. We sat across from each other in my small living room, the silence heavy and uncomfortable. I can't stop it, Dad. The loan process is already underway. You could withdraw your claim. Tell the bank you made a mistake. I shook my head. I didn't make a mistake. You did. You cut me out of your will while living in a house I helped save. His hands trembled. I was trying to teach you. Don't. My voice was sharp. Don't tell me this was about teaching me anything. You wanted to punish me for being different from Caleb. For not needing you the way he does. Martin's face crumpled. For a moment, I thought he might cry. Instead, he stood up, his expression hardening. "You'll regret this. I'll fight you in court. I'll prove you manipulated the deed. I'll do whatever you need to do, Dad." He stormed out, slamming the door hard enough to shake the walls. 2 days later, I was served with legal papers. Martin was suing me for emotional manipulation and property interference. The courtroom was smaller than I expected. Wooden benches, fluorescent lights, and a judge who looked tired before the proceedings even began. Martin sat with his lawyer, a sharp-dressed man named Pierce who specialized in family disputes. I sat with Ellen, who dressed me in a conservative navy suit and coached me to stay calm no matter what happened. Pierce opened strong, painting me as a vengeful daughter who'd secretly plotted to steal her father's home. He talked about emotional manipulation, about taking advantage of a grieving widower, about twisting property law to serve my own interests. Then it was Ellen's turn. She presented everything methodically. Bank statements showing my payments during the foreclosure crisis. Copies of checks I'd written. Transfer records. Emails where I'd coordinated with Mr. Keaton to save the house. The original deed clearly showing my name. "Your Honor," Ellen said calmly, "Ms. Emerson didn't manipulate anything. She saved this property. She paid for 60% of the purchase during a financial crisis. Her name was added to the deed legally and properly. Her father is now trying to erase that history because it's inconvenient." The courtroom was silent. Martin's face had gone red, then white, then red again. The judge looked at Martin. "Mr. Emerson, did you know your daughter had paid a significant portion of the property costs?" It was a loan. Family helping family. "Do you have any documentation showing this was a loan?" Martin's lawyer whispered to him urgently. "No, Your Honor." The judge's expression hardened. "Mr. Emerson, I'm dismissing this suit and warning you about filing frivolous claims. Ms. Emerson's ownership is clearly documented and legal. Furthermore, I'm freezing all your assets pending clarification of the property title and the illegally secured loan." Martin stood up, shouting. "This is insane. Mr. Emerson, sit down or I'll hold you in contempt." He sat, his whole body shaking with rage. We won. But it didn't feel like winning. News of the court decision spread through town like wildfire. By evening, everyone knew that Martin Emerson had tried to sue his own daughter and lost spectacularly. The whispers became louder. People stopped pretending to be polite. Martin's friends started avoiding him at the hardware store. His construction contracts dried up as clients worried about his judgment. Diane left him. She packed her bags one Tuesday morning, took half of Martin's remaining accessible funds, and moved to her sister's house 3 towns over. She didn't leave a note. Caleb stopped talking to Martin entirely, blaming him for the loan disaster. I watched it all from a distance, feeling like I was observing someone else's life. The Emerson family, once so carefully constructed, had completely fallen apart. And I was somehow both the cause and the victim. Ellen kept me updated on the legal proceedings. The auction date was confirmed. The house would be sold in 30 days unless someone paid off Caleb's loan in full. I went to work every day, came home, and sat in my apartment staring at walls. Friends called to check on me, but I didn't answer. I'd won every legal battle, but I felt hollowed out inside. Was this justice? Or just revenge dressed up in legal paperwork? The night before the auction, I drove past the house on Maple Street. It was dark except for one light in the upstairs window. Caleb's old room, where he'd probably been staying despite everything. I parked across the street and just looked at it. The place where I'd learned to ride a bike. Where Mom had taught me to bake cookies. Where Dad had once lifted me onto his shoulders to help put the star on the Christmas tree. All those memories were about to belong to a stranger. My phone rang. It was Caleb. I almost didn't answer. "Jules?" His voice was rough, like he'd been crying. "Can you come inside?" "I don't think that's a good idea." Please. Just for a minute. Against my better judgment, I walked up to the front door. It opened before I could knock. Caleb stood there in sweatpants and an old college t-shirt, looking more vulnerable than I'd ever seen him. I found something. In Mom's things. He led me upstairs to the attic, to boxes we'd never fully sorted after Mom died. He pulled out a letter in her handwriting. It's addressed to both of us, he said quietly. I think we were supposed to find it together. We sat on the dusty attic floor and read Mom's letter by flashlight. Her handwriting was shaky, written in her final weeks. My darling Julia and Caleb. Asterisk, if you're reading this, I'm gone, and I hope you two are taking care of each other. I know you're different. Julia, you got my practicality. Caleb, you got your father's big dreams. Both are valuable. Both are needed, asterisk. Asterisk, Julia, don't let your responsibility become a burden. Don't sacrifice yourself until there's nothing left. And Caleb, don't let your dreams make you careless with the people who love you, asterisk. Asterisk, the house isn't just bricks and wood. It's love and memory. But if keeping it means losing each other, let it go. Family is more important than property, asterisk. Asterisk, take care of each other. Please, asterisk. Love, Mom. Caleb was crying openly now. I felt tears on my own cheeks. I'm sorry, he whispered. I'm sorry for everything. For the will, for the loan, for being a terrible brother. I'm sorry too, I said. For letting it go this far. We sat in silence for a long time. Then Caleb asked, what do we do now? I thought about Ellen's advice. About the auction tomorrow. About the power I held. I could buy the house myself, own it completely, and make everyone pay for what they'd done. Or I could do what Mom would have wanted. Come to the auction with me tomorrow, I said. Let's figure it out together. The auction was held on the courthouse steps at 10 in the morning. About 40 people gathered, some legitimately interested in buying, others just there for the drama. Martin stood apart from everyone, staring at the ground. He looked broken. The auctioneer started the bidding at $200,000. Several hands went up immediately. The price climbed quickly, $220, $240, $260. Martin tried to bid but couldn't meet the climbing price. His face showed every bit of his humiliation. At $300,000, most bidders dropped out. Then, at $320, only two remained, an older couple looking for investment property, and a mystery bidder who'd been quiet the whole time. $330,000, the mystery bidder called. The couple shook their heads and dropped out. Going once, going twice. Wait, I said, stepping forward. I'm the mystery bidder. Ellen placed bids on my behalf. The crowd murmured. Martin looked up, his expression unreadable. The auctioneer confirmed the sale. I now own the entire property, legally and completely. Caleb walked over and hugged me tight. Thank you, he whispered. Martin approached slowly, looking at the ground. Can we talk? I nodded. We sat on the porch of the house I now owned completely. Martin, Caleb, and me. 3 generations of Emersons, broken and trying to find a way forward. I need to say something, Martin began, his voice shaking. I resented you, Julia. You were always so capable, so responsible. It made me feel small. Like I was failing as a father because you didn't need me. I stared at him. So you punished me for being self-sufficient? I know how it sounds. I know how terrible it is. He wiped his eyes. When your mother died, I couldn't handle it. I couldn't handle anything. And you just kept going. Kept managing everything. It reminded me of my failures. That's not fair, Dad. I know. Nothing about this is fair. He looked at the house. I'm asking for mercy I don't deserve. Can I stay here until I figure things out? 2 months, maybe 3? I looked at Caleb, who nodded slowly. 2 months, I said firmly. No more. And you need to see a therapist. Actually deal with your grief instead of lashing out at everyone around you. Martin nodded, tears streaming down his face. Okay. Thank you. Diane reappeared that evening, having heard about the auction results. She marched up the driveway, her face twisted with fury. You've ruined us, she screamed at me. Your father has nothing because of you. This family is destroyed. Diane's fury was something to behold. She shouted on the front lawn, her voice carrying down the street. Neighbors peeked through curtains. Someone filmed on their phone. You're a vindictive, selfish little girl, she screamed. Martin gave you everything, and this is how you repay him? I stood on the porch, calm now. Martin gave me criticism and disappointment. I gave him a house. You manipulated him. You. Diane, Martin said quietly, appearing behind me. Stop. Just stop. She turned on him. You're defending her? After what she's done? She saved this house 6 years ago. She's saving it again now. The only person who destroyed anything here was me. He looked at Diane with tired eyes. You need to leave. This isn't your family or your business. Diane sputtered for another minute, then stormed off to her car. She peeled out of the driveway, and we never saw her again. The next day, I had the locks changed as planned. I gave Martin and Caleb keys, but I kept the master copies. Ellen drew up a temporary residence agreement, 2 months, no rent, but they had to maintain the property and couldn't make changes without my written approval. Martin signed without argument. Exactly 2 months later, I returned to the house. Martin had kept his promise. He'd started seeing a therapist. He'd taken a part-time job at a local construction supply store. He'd stopped drinking, stopped making excuses, and started facing his mistakes. He met me at the door with a letter in his hands. I wrote this for you, he said. You don't have to read it now. But I need you to have it. I took the letter and sat on Mom's old couch. Martin and Caleb watched as I unfolded it. Julia. Asterisk I paid for this house out of love, not debt. You turned that love into punishment. I'm sorry, asterisk. Asterisk responsibility isn't about control. It's about respect. You understood that. I didn't, asterisk. Asterisk you deserved better from me. You deserved a father who celebrated your strength instead of resenting it. I can't undo the pain I caused, but I can finally understand it, asterisk. Asterisk you were always the strong one. I see that now, asterisk. I love you. Dad. I folded the letter carefully, tears blurring my vision. Martin's eyes were red too. I'm leaving today, he said. I found an apartment. Caleb's coming with me. We'll figure things out together. I nodded, not trusting my voice. What will you do with the house? Caleb asked. I'd been thinking about that for weeks. The house was too big for me alone, too full of memories both good and bad. But Mom's letter had given me an idea. I'm going to turn it into something that matters, I said. The renovation took 3 months. I hired contractors and designers, but I made all the major decisions. Mom's rose garden was restored. The kitchen stayed intact, pencil marks and all. But the rest was transformed. The dining room became a classroom. The living room became a meeting space. The bedrooms upstairs were converted into offices. The Emerson House, I called it. A financial literacy center for women. A place where women could learn about money management, property ownership, investment strategies, and standing up for themselves financially. Mr. Keaton volunteered to teach classes. Ellen offered legal workshops. I hired counselors to help women escape financial abuse. The local newspaper interviewed me for a feature story. The headline read, Woman Turns Family Home into Center Teaching Women Financial Independence. The article went viral. Women from 3 counties started calling for information. We had to create a waiting list. On opening day, I stood in the classroom and looked at the 20 women seated before me. Young and old. Rich and poor. All there to learn how to protect themselves. My mother taught me to be practical, I told them. My father taught me, accidentally, to be strong. This house nearly destroyed my family. Now it's going to help save others. 6 months after opening, the center was thriving. We'd helped over 200 women. We'd prevented 3 foreclosures. We'd helped 5 women escape financially abusive relationships. Martin attended the 6-month celebration, standing quietly in the back row. He'd kept up his therapy. He'd reconciled with some old friends. He'd started rebuilding his life, slowly and carefully. After the speeches, he approached me, his steps hesitant. "I'm proud of you," he said simply. "Your mother would be too." "Thank you," I replied, and I meant it. He looked around the transformed house. "You did learn responsibility. More than I ever did." I smiled softly. "Guess the lesson worked both ways, Dad." He laughed, a real laugh, something I hadn't heard in years. "Yeah. I guess it did." Caleb joined us, carrying a small package. "We got you something. For the center." Inside was a framed photo of Mom in her rose garden, smiling at the camera. Behind the photo was the letter she'd written us, professionally preserved. "For your office," Caleb said. "So she's always here." I hugged them both, my complicated, broken, healing family. We weren't perfect. We probably never would be. But we were trying, and that had to count for something. The house on Maple Street had witnessed betrayal and revenge, anger and forgiveness. Now it would witness transformation and hope. Mom would have liked that.